Hi everyone, welcome to Film Ramblings. I am Hero 004, and tonight from Las Vegas, Nevada, I am going to give you a review of Darren Aronofsky's film Postcard from Earth, which I just saw at the Sphere, the brand new entertainment center, which is really the first of its kind here in Las Vegas. I wanted to hurry here and see one of the first showings of this film here in the first month of its release because it really seemed like, fundamentally something that we've never seen before, a new type of film, a new type of art experience, just due to this completely spherical, high definition screen system that the Sphere was touting. It almost seemed too good to be true as far as the technology went, um, you know, but at the same time, it seemed like something like this is pretty plausible nowadays, especially given the stuff that's being used by the studios, like the volume at Lucasfilm or at Disney, rather. It was sort of like something like this was bound to happen, but, the way that the sphere, just with its huge size, just appeared in the Las Vegas skyline and is just so apparent. I mean, it's very easy to get a photo of the sphere. If you need a photo of the sphere and want to know what it looks like from every angle of the neighborhoods around Las Vegas and different streets, different vantage points, I'm your guy. Because I got lots of photos of it, and luckily I also got to go inside and see this film. Um, the U2 is also doing concerts. It seems like daily, at least here during the weekend this month, and then it's alternating with the movie. And just general thoughts. I really, really liked it. I loved it. The movie itself, the piece Postcard from Earth, completely lived up to what the pitch was. The spirit experience itself, going into the complex and everything, it's not as organized and straightforward as I guess I expected, but the actual aesthetic in there and the way it's designed and the amenities, the bars, restaurants, decorations, everything is really cool. Um, the movie, it's not a full feature, it's not a short, it's something around 40, 45 minutes. But then the whole experience itself lasts 2 hours because they give you plenty of time to go in there and walk around and see the different other features within the sphere, tying into the film and then just kind of also tying into the idea of this immersive experience that this new type of entertainment center provides. The movie, I knew it was sort of a sci-fi look at humanity and just sort of a sociological type thing is kind of what I was expecting, going into different cultures, scattering around, kind of like a tour, but also, being something really artistic. But what I was surprised by was that this was a very linear movie story, and um, the visuals were very mind blowing. Like, you know, again, completely lived up to expectations, but I was really surprised that the script, the angle that this movie took at its subject matter, which is the most grand and also the most intimate at the same time, humanity and Earth, the Earth that we live on. Um, it was really well done and just a really concise, condensed, beautiful piece of work as far as actually what you're listening to, because it's sort of a voiceover as we're experiencing all these great visuals. Um, I was just really impressed. It's something that is both existential and also managed to be very poetic. And the language in this voiceover, in the script of this movie, Postcard from Earth, it's universal language. It's sort of broad stroke words that describe life and humanity and Earth in a very specific sort of corridor, avenue of perspective and storytelling, but painting this very grand picture. And, by the end, it gives you a very intimate sort of gut punch as well. Um, so, spoiler alert, from here on out, this is going to be full spoilers. If you've seen the movie and just kind of want to hear my take on it and what I took away from it and how I interpreted it, then enjoy. And then also, if you can't make it to Vegas and want to know what this movie and experience is all about, that's completely understandable. And this video is for you specifically. Um, so I'm just going to start with what happens when you walk through the door all the way to the movie and the end credits. So when you get to the sphere, they advise you to drop off at a certain street because, as you know, if you've been to Las Vegas, and I didn't know because this is my first time in Las Vegas actually, they like to, you're walking very specific sidewalks in specific directions to get to the entrances of the places you want to go. And the sphere is kind of no different, but the good thing is there's several entrances, and there's so many seats in this thing, and it's um, relatively affordable to get a ticket, and they've got a lot of screenings throughout the day. Not as much as a normal movie, but more than you might think in this opening, uh, bow here in the month of October 2023. So on that note, there's several ways to get in, from one of the skywalks up top, and then also just all around, since it's a sphere, a circle. There's several entrances you can get through around it, and lots of lines. You get in, and there's kind of a lobby area, like you're getting into a sports arena or something, and everybody lines up, and it moves really quickly. There's like 6 or 7 lines in the entrance area I was at. And you just go through, they scan your mobile ticket, and then you go into the main area. So, if you were looking at the sphere, a big dome from the outside, um, this is the area that you would imagine, the big open area inside that you would kind of imagine. Um, but it's just like a big, sort of purple blue hued um, room, and it's just huge. There's like 3 or 4 levels. Um, and so throughout this bit, and there's escalators, and there's stuff hanging down, and there's these sort of, holograms that are on the decorations, these sort of chandeliers, kind of, translucent chandeliers, pieces of thin, plastic or glass looking things are sort of hanging like ornaments throughout this big, complex. And so there's images, faces and, decorations, floral images just being projected on these holograms. And, it's not quite a full hologram, um, like a trick of the eye you would see at a science museum or something. And it's not like really an actual like glasses free 3D image. It's kind of somewhere in between with these very thin, translucent, almost look like tiny little HD screens in themselves hanging down with the image, just, surprisingly clear and not separated and fractured, going across. So those are hanging everywhere. And then there's all these these humanoid robots, like like imagine like iRobot, those type of designs. And there's like, 6 or 7 or 8 of them, or maybe less, maybe only 4. I don't remember, but the place is so huge. I think I only like clocked 4, but I think there's a bunch more. And they're sitting there or standing there, and essentially when you walk up and talk to them, it will repeat your name and talk to you and tell you about the sphere and sort of the idea of the metaverse. Meta is kind of the key word of, the movie and the place itself, because immersive, you know, blurring the line between the audience member and the piece itself. So, she's essentially, so when you get your pass, when you get your ticket and you get your email and confirmation and everything, it kind of says, that you're going to have this AI meta robot welcome experience before the movie. So I was expecting them to kind of line us up and we each very quickly talk to the robot and experience it. But it turns out, there were very long lines of people, lined up to talk to her. And I think that made the experience itself for each person pretty short. And also, you kind of want to walk around and see what it all looks like in the 30 minutes or 45 minutes before the movie starts. Find your seat. So I decided not to talk to her myself, the robot myself, because I wanted to, get to my seat and take some photos and, mess around as I usually do. Um, but I was able to watch her talk to someone, and it's pretty cool how she repeats your name, starts talking to you, asks where you're from, or you tell her where you're from, and she gives you some thoughts. And then just sort of her mannerisms and her tone of voice, her reactions are very, human-like, lifelike, more than Alexa or Siri or anything like that. So that's neat, but really not an essential part of the experience. Like I'll check it out next time. Maybe if they get that a little bit more seamless to where everybody can feel good about getting uh, that done without standing in line so long. Um, but the point is, there's a lot of people in there, but it's not. It doesn't feel crowded. You kind of get an opportunity, in a sense, of walking around and exploring the space, going up the escalators if you're in one of the upper sections, as I was, and just kind of it does feel like a little experience going through it because it's a very cool, futuristic, but elegant, design of a place. It's really cool. So there's a lot of security and a lot of staff walking around. They're very friendly. I grabbed a Red Bull from one of the bars. There's bars and food stands and everywhere. So that makes it, really nice. And if you're looking to have refreshments, um, and they're really cool, like, cantina uh, designs and just, really cool little uh, shop fronts within there. So, it seems like it's a cool place to hang out, or would be if you like get there earlier or something like that. Um, so anyway, but you can't really do that because they do kind of get you in and out. But anyway, um, so once you get to your seat, it's kind of like a stadium. That they've got people there to direct you and everything. Um, and it's just once you're in there, you have it's like a super IMAX theater or a pro football stadium, but with a screen draped all around it. So when you get in there and you're seated, so it's like nothing. It really isn't like anything you've seen before, and it's not like your immediate thought when you see the sphere might be like, okay, you get in there and it's like the Astrodome or something in Houston, where like it's literally hollow and completely spherical in shape. But of course, there's the big section and then the seating area, and it feels, sort of like something in between. And it is almost a full dome once you're in there, but not quite. But from where you're seating and the fact that we don't have eyes on the back of our heads does make it a full dome, especially once it's moving and the movie starts. So, once you're seated and you're waiting for the movie to start, it's a gray background with like some color, like in a rectangle, but the rectangle is the size of an IMAX screen. So you're already getting a sense of the scale, and so then the movie starts after a while. You got plenty of time to walk around and get in your seat, like actually a full hour. So that's a good part of it, and it's not as coordinated and they're not supervising you and stuff as much as I might have expected. And that's kind of a good thing and a bad thing because, again, not everybody gets time with the robot. Um, but it's good for the most part. Um, so, you know, um, you're waiting for it to start, and then once it starts, um, and another thing I was going to mention was my screening 2:30 in the afternoon. It wasn't, completely full. I expected them all to be completely full in this opening month, but there's plenty of seats on the periphery, and that's good. And also, I had a completely empty seat next to me. Um, and I always like to and I sat on the edge of one of the aisles, which I always like to do. It does seem like if you're on the edges or the very bottom, you're not going to get as good of an experience, but it's pretty easy to get one of the centralized, and when I say centralized, most of them are seats if you get a ticket because it's not you know a completely full flight, so to speak. So the movie starts, and it starts with the title card, Postcard from Earth, and it's still in that rectangle. So the full sphere hasn't filled up with image yet. It's in that rectangle. And so as the film starts, these two humanoid, or these two humans, these two travelers, astronauts, genetically engineered humans in space, whatever, you're just kind of thinking Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar, or Prometheus, or what was or Alien, or what was that, Raised by Wolves by Ridley Scott. You're kind of getting that vibe as these humans land on a rocky planet and they wake up from their hibernation pods. Um, but it is a particularly, even though it reminds you of those other beats from other recent sci-fi stuff, it is a really beautiful design for the spacesuits and the spaceship and the equipment on their bodies and stuff. It is a really cool looking take on that. So the voiceovers alternating between a woman's voice and a man's voice, very good voice acting. Um, they start explaining to you, the audience member, or the people waking up, that they are from Earth and this is Earth. And so then, and this was crazy, the rectangle turns to the sky and you suddenly get the full experience of the sphere. And like you thought you were in a big room, but once those high definition panels that are filling the entire room light up with that image of the sky and we're floating over, snow-capped mountains, um, you get the real sense of scale. And, with the sky being projected up there, you just feel like you're in this huge space and you feel like you're there. And they've got a substantial sort of breeze, wind blowing on you, and your seat is vibrating. And it's much more seamless and than 40X or any of the other sort of extra effect 3D movie uh, you know uh, experiences I've had before. Um, and it's just like really gives you the goosebumps. And, the audience was gasping at that point. Um, so the voiceover starts explaining, again, alternating between the man and the woman, that this is Earth, and just explaining the basic elements, the dirt, the rock, that's really what it's based in physically, and start showing us the different cityscape, this different landscapes. But it doesn't do a checklist, National Geographic, Planet Earth, let's show you everything, whatever, in Blue Planet. It particularly chooses different locations to give you kind of again, a linear, uh, you know, take in of all this. And so it starts explaining the elements, and then it starts explaining life, and it starts explaining what life literally does. Again, in these broad terms, these universal terms, the fact that life moves and it does and it fights and it multiplies, and some of it clings to the rock and the dirt, and some of it goes up and around, and um, so yeah, it starts showing and then the sea, and then once the sphere and all this the big screen plunges you into the ocean, it's like really crazy too. And so it's showing the fish and the bug, or really first it shows, like, as it's talking about life, it shows, like, the microbes and the single cell multiplying. And that was kind of the first time I really kind of got a little teary eyed. Like, there's something about seeing a tiny representation of life projected on this giant screen, bigger than I've ever seen before, that moving, that was just, in motion, that just was really moving to me. Just, the juxtaposition of seeing a tiny, you know, like, sort of, you know, ignition or of the process of life projected, you know, on a large scale, literally visually, was just really cool. And then, you know, as it did that with insects, and even that was kind of touching in a way. And just so it's explaining life, and it's interesting. Like, it's like there's this line, like, life, it's a shapeshifter, and like, just like you think, like, oh, is there life on other planets, and we are what life is, and it starts in the water and blah blah blah. But the way this movie, its vantage point, it kind of makes you think of, like, oh, this is life is a particular thing on this planet, and it doesn't feel inevitable. And like, it seems like there might be some, like, life here is kind of specific, and it seems like some other process might happen on another planet that you wouldn't even call life, because it's just it's appraising the idea of life and what it does, um, commonly around the earth, and then specifically with us, in a really cool way. Just the analysis of it and the take on it. So yeah, eventually we get to the monkeys, as you'd expect, and then we get to the humans. And it's cool how, because it's showing us plants clinging to the rock in the ocean, and then how other life, spreads around and climbs around, and then it's showing humans, like, kind of doing agriculture, going through plants and stuff in really cool landscapes that, a typical, you know, uh, Midwestern American or something may not recognize. I don't know why I said Midwestern. Any American, maybe. Just cool, places. And so that was kind of a specific thing, just showing our relationship to life and how we go where it is, whether it's, picking plant life, vegetables, fruit, to consume, or just exploring around. And so that was neat. And then it just kind of eventually gets to the idea that we didn't even want to stay on, the Mother Earth and its nurturing soil that we exploited so much. Like, we eventually wanted to go upward, literally, and fly. And it's kind of, there was a hot air balloon sequence, and it does kind of remind you, like, a hot air balloon is literally fire, which was the first sort of technological wonder we made. Literally just fire, uh, going into the air and lifting you up. So kind of a cool primal representation of our, desire to fly, and how that's led to airplanes and everything. Um, just some poetic stuff. And then just seeing the different, it shows you cathedrals, temples, things like that. There's like images of like you in the back of a car as you're like as if you're the passenger of someone's ride, um, and your seat rumbles. But again, you're in such a big screen that like kind of when they do that sort of POV thing in a movie or an IMAX, it gives you that extra sense of immersion. But like having it this big, like so much bigger than the size of a giant, up on the screen, it really gives you a sense of immersion and just appreciation. I've always said like something about movies on the big screen and seeing someone's face blown up that much, on a tapestry that big, you don't actually see human faces uh, that big in the details and features and nuances on them in real life. So there's something that conveys something special when you see it on a theatrical movie, and that's just kind of exaggerated with this movie. And speaking of meta and immersive movies, I did enjoy in the Flash this year, sort of his running sequence at the beginning when he's going through, you know, different landscapes to like get to Gotham from Central City, I guess, um, in the opening of that film. And this kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Um, but anyway, it gives you one of those humbling, just narratives about what we've done to the planet. And, um, it's got this line about how, like, we use the planet as scaffolding to get us up there. And then just, I guess, the biggest sort of, like, oh, you know, I guess humbling moment for me or, yeah, was this moment where it's like, it shows all these human faces like in panels all around the dome. So like, you got to pick which one to concentrate on. And it says something like, a billion people or a billion stories, a billion uh, spokes that think they're the center of the wheel. And gosh, that's so true. And it just is pretty wild. Um, and then that's how we keep pushing forward and doing all these things and have this hubris, is because we all want to be and we all are the center of our story. So it gets to just the fact that environmentally, we've used up the earth, or we will. And then eventually it gets, just pretty suddenly it gets to, what we would have to do, colonize other places. And unlike those other sci-fi stories, it kind of gives the idea that we leave the Earth and kind of have a orbital, uh, you know, uh, satellite sort of space station homes, and then we have homes on the moon, and then we find other planets. But unlike those, it kind of explains that we left the Earth behind and the Earth healed, and we did it particularly for that reason. And so, and then people still come back to the Earth or something occasionally for like tourism. And it doesn't follow a specific character experiencing those things. It's just telling us about this uh, Earth story, particularly. And um, as I was sitting there, I do find the general public pretty disappointing, let's say, in screenings as the years go on. People squawking, when does the movie start? Why don't I have Wi-Fi? Blah, 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 blah. And, especially in Vegas. Um, a lot of people with unfortunate personalities come here to, you know, cut loose, as someone told me earlier. But, you know, the movie kind of did shut them up and kind of, um, you know, uh, put them in their place, hopefully literally and figuratively. And I think there's something, you know, I did have the thought that there's something ironic because, you know, the movie's kind of one of its themes is the idea that, you know, we spread out and just the wonders of the earth itself and just the fact that we're going to have to, you know, spread out and leave and colonize. And I love colonization, space colonization stories. Um, because I do believe that that's where we need to go inevitably, and that we should get on it. And also, I think it's just um, contextually, you know, a beautiful story concepts for humans in general. So that's one of the reasons why I love sci-fi. Um, but you know, I just thought it was ironic that this movie here in Vegas, which is just sort of, you know, the pinnacle of human excess and humans condensing all into one place and taking it over. You know, I was thinking about how people could get stuck here, or, you know, I can understand how people get stuck here and just how, you know, like how thousands of years ago, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands, maybe, we were, wagering rocks and coconuts and pieces of leather and and now we have machines with codes, thousands and thousands of them here in this city that just let you gamble any way you could think, um, and just how that's a very cyclical behavior, and how this is a cyclical place, Las Vegas, and again, just an idea of us climbing on top of something and using it up, um, and how this movie uh, sort of talks about how we should do the opposite. And I think like it's kind of good that you know this movie might kind of serve as sort of a checkpoint for people, um, you know, maybe cerebrally or emotionally as they come here through Las Vegas and get this perspective on Earth and humanity and life through this movie. Um, so as the movie, you know, gets into its third act, explaining how this new status quo of we went and colonized other places and only came back to Earth occasionally, you know, the elites, kind of the implication is, can do Earth tourism. The rest of people live, you know, um, or everybody lives, you know, externally on other planets and space stations. And then so our main characters, these astronauts we saw at the beginning, um, you know, it's explained that now they're on a new planet to colonize, and they're, you know, essentially the first ones. You know, it gives you an Adam and Eve type vibe. Does make you kind of think how Earth is sort of the Garden of Eden on a broad scale, and the rest of the universe is more the world. You know, so and then so kind of you know, they walk around, the man and the woman, and then they meet. And then the final lines of the movie reveal that the man speaking the voiceover explaining the Earth, and the woman voiceover explaining the Earth, that have been alternating this whole movie, um, saying all these lines, are the astronauts themselves, and they've been explaining it to each other. And it ends with, you know, and then kind of the point is like this planet doesn't have life, and it kind of it almost could give you the, you know, one takeaway is that no other planet has life but Earth, and that, you know, Earth is the special thing. So the final lines are sort of like, but so you came here to give it life, but you didn't come here alone. You came with the person you love, or you came with the thing you love. You came with me. And the man says you came with me, the woman says you came with me, and they meet as they're sort of planting this sort of futuristic floating, like uh you know uh super seed or something that's gonna you know give uh spread life to the whole planet. They face each other and meet, and it's explained that they're here together, and that they've explained all this stuff to each other when they woke up, and so it ends on a pretty touching note there. And they're going back to the love thing. There was a line, like as it's explaining the the environmental thing and how we use up the Earth's resources. It has a line something like, um, uh, but that pales in comparison to their, humanity's biggest mistake or regret, and that's that they destroyed what they loved. And then it starts showing graves because, well, each other is what we love. So it was kind of beautiful that it made that distinction and sort of hierarchy of concept that even the earth and life and this beautiful thing that the movie's talking about, that's not even what we love most. It's humans, it's each other that we love most, and that's why war is so sad. um so you know that was timely. It's always timely, unfortunately, and a poignant, uh, sad notion, but also poetic. Um, so this movie really struck a balance. I mean, it was poetic and it was technical, but not in a laborious way. Either way, it was just really well written. Like I would like a booklet, like a printout of uh, all these lines as you're going through this experience. Because Postcard from Earth is a really good screenplay. Um, and talking about Aronofsky, I mean, I'm a big fan of Aronofsky in the sense that I love auteurs and I love our contemporary auteurs and the ones that have been doing their thing since the 90s. And, I really respect and appreciate Aronofsky's style. It's you would say gritty, realistic, very immersive, very uh, loud, very sharp style of filmmaking. That opening of The Rustler and, uh, you know, Black Swan sort of unpleasant vibe, excuse me. Um, and, I think so. I really respect him in his style. It's not completely my thing. Um, and honestly, my favorite of his movies, not necessarily his most well made, but my favorite according to my taste, because guess what? They're two different things. There can be both at once. My favorite is actually Noah, his biblical epic. I thought, you know, it's a secular view of Noah, and then also a direct adaptation of that Old Testament story as well. Um, and I thought the juxtaposition of his really sharp, realistic, gritty style of filmmaking and visuals juxtaposed with this mythic, uh, you know, story, fantasy story was really a potent mix. And and also they don't, for some reason, they haven't made a lot of, modern adaptations of those ideas from ancient texts because people are still too precious about them. Um, and, consider them real and stuff. So there's still sort of that taboo even all these years later, and there's like even less than like back in the day with, uh, whatever, all those, sort of Roman sword and sandal movies they used to make, and then even like Last Temptation of Christ and stuff. I don't know. You would just think they would have made more like, anyway, that's a tangent. You think they would have made more like biblical and religious narrative movies just because it's easy fantasy and sort of IP. But anyway, so I like Noah. And then Noah is also this idea, like I remember Emma Watson saying in one of the interviews from the junkets back then that like Noah isn't necessarily set in the past. It could be set in a post-apocalyptic future or something like that. Um, and so I thought that was kind of a cool idea. So, Noah dealing with these universal, timely, environmental, um, you know, it being a grand Earth, humanity based story kind of makes this one a companion piece to it. Um, and, I thought that before going in, and then after seeing it, I especially think that because it has an emotion and literal narrative to it, um, that I guess Noah does too, and you know any good movie would. So um, yeah, I really enjoyed it. When you leave, I did have some time to kind of take pictures and stuff as it emptied out, and they keep something like a screensaver projected up there fully, not the gray thing with the box of color anymore like before. Like it's a full, like, Appalachian Mountains or something, or snow-capped mountains image. So I was able to get some photos of that. So that was cool. They're not strict about photos. They're not, as strict about anything as I was expecting. Don't bring large bags or anything like that. Normal stuff. Um, so I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the experience. I hope they make more of these. I hope they start making, sphere movies. I hope they make longer, full length ones. I'm kind of predicting they'll probably do like, hey, you can see the full sphere version, and then we'll also like crop it, but crop all around the image and make it a flat, um, normal movie as well. You can see that version of it or the sphere version. You know, I don't know if they'll do that. I hope that they do just exclusive sphere movies and then regular movies. And I hope there are several spheres around the different cities because I think that would be good. Uh, so I'm going to cut it here at almost 45 minutes. Hope you enjoyed this, and I would recommend Darren Aronofsky's The Postcard from Earth, and would recommend The Sphere so far. So thanks for watching. Keep it tuned to Film Ramblings with Hero 004. Take care.